Raider Nation, what's going on? It's Mitchell Renz here, host of the Raiders Report. And coming up on today's show, the top 10 NFL free agents the Raiders should target during their bye week. Having a Week 13 bye is kind of a weird thing because it's so late in the season, but right now for where the Raiders are at, after cutting Marcus Peters, after cutting Roderic with 2 open roster spots, it's kind of coming at the most perfect time, especially if you're Antonio Pierce, if you're Champ Kelly, if you're trying to say, hey, I deserve to be the head coach, general manager next season. You can't just sit around. You got to get aggressive, and you got to do something to help build this team, because if you can make the playoffs, I know it's not a very likely thing, but that's what you need to do to be able to keep your job. So the Raiders, 2 open roster spots at the time that I'm making this video, which is November 28th. The Raiders' salary cap is currently $9 million as it stands right now. And even if the Raiders decide to promote 2 players from their practice squad to fill in those 2 open roster spots, there are still solid free agents out there that could help build this team on the offense and on the defensive side of the football. I will say this, if it's a big name, I'm going to go live here on the Raiders Report. We don't just go live for 26 hours when they fire Josh McDaniels. We don't just go live for watch parties. When big-time Raiders news happens, Chugs and I go live here on the show. So if it does end up going down, well, Chugs might not be here because he's got a bachelor party this weekend for him, but I'll definitely be here. Hit that subscribe button, turn on those notifications. That way, if news does drop, you don't end up missing it. So coming up here are my top 10 NFL free agents that I believe that the Raiders should target in free agency. So these are going to be ranked, and I'm going to work my way from 10, and I'm going to go all the way down to 1. And the reason why they are ranked the way they are is based on team fit, based on overall team need, how much money they're going to cost, how good they are. So the rankings aren't just how good they are. It goes, how does that player fit with what the Raiders currently need right now? Let's go to number 10, a very common name on the Raiders Report. It is Akiem Hicks. Hell, I talked about Sue so much last season that I can actually spell Akiem without looking it up on Google. That's how often I talked about him. He grew up a Raider fan, and he signed midway through last season with the Philadelphia Eagles. And when you look at his PFF numbers here at 64.2 overall, good against the run, a little bit below average against the pass. But to me, it's been a problem for the Raiders as long as I can remember. They need to be able to address that defensive tackle room. And sure, the first 2 weeks of having Antonio Pierce as head coach, thought the defensive tackle room played a lot better. You know, Bilal Nichols took a step forward. Jerry Tillery took a step forward. I thought Adam Butler's played pretty well. But to me, we can all agree there is still room for improvement there on the defensive line. So to me, you bring in a tough mother effer like Akiem. Sure, he's up there in age, but I do think that he would help out the defense. And at the end of the day, I'm looking for players that I think help out this team. Let's go to number 9 here on my list. I'm going to go with P.J. Williams at safety. And the versatility is why I have him ranked over a player like Sue, because he can play safety, he can play corner, and with the Raiders just recently moving on from Marcus Peters and moving on from Roderic, being able to add a little versatility I do think can help you out. He has started in 34 games in his NFL career, which he's been in the league since 2016, and when you can find a player that does offer you some veteran leadership, some versatility, plus has some playing experience, last season, 26 tackles, 2 PBUs, no interceptions, but the versatility that P.J. Williams offers you, if you're looking for a cheap player that you're like, you know what, 2 birds, 1 stone, I can sign P.J. Williams, he's going to help out the cornerback room, and he's going to help out the safety room, I think is why you would look at a guy like Williams. Now, our pinned comment on today's show is going to be this one, which means you're going to get hit with the YouTube ad break. I want you to scroll on down and let me know, what is the Raiders' biggest need as it stands right now? Because probably how you answer this question determines what you think the Raiders need to do in free agency. Number 8 here on my top 10 free agents that the Raiders should sign during their bye week. I'm going to go with another safety. It's Logan Ryan. And some of y'all probably watched my Roderic Teamer replacement video. And a lot of the reasons what I talked about then is what I'm going to mention here. He played with Patrick Graham from 2020 to 2021 on the New York Giants. He has started in 121 games throughout his career. And he's going to be a good leader for this defense. He's also going to be a good leader on and off the field. He's going to be a good leader on the practice field as well. So to me, I look at a guy like Logan Ryan, and I'm looking for somebody that can just help stop the run a little bit better, which is what he can do. Also, Marcus Epps has been battling a little bit of an injury. He had a shoulder injury, which he sustained against the Kansas City Chiefs. So if you're looking for a team replacement, if you're looking for some insurance around a guy like Epps, I do think Logan Ryan could make some sense. Now, I still have a few more names, obviously, to get to here on today's show, but I got to talk about today's sponsor, Prize Picks. And even though the Raiders are on a bye this week, you can still have a lot of fun because Prize Picks is daily fantasy sports made easy. And I want you all to listen up right now. If you're looking to have a little bit of fun this week, go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and make sure that you use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. This week, I'm going to be testing my skills on Prize Pick because it's some of the most fun that I've had all year doing daily fantasy sports. If you have the skills, you can turn $10 into $250 with just a few taps. Prize Picks is really simple to play. I can make my picks and submit my entry in less than 60 seconds. Quick withdrawals, easy gameplay, and an enormous selection of players and stat type are what make Prize Picks the #1 daily fantasy sports app. So I'll be live this Thursday covering the Seahawks-Cowboys game with Chugs, and these are going to be some of the picks that I roll with, and I might even put in more picks here. So I'm going to go Geno Smith less on the passing yards. Give me the more for rushing and receiving touchdowns from Tony Pollard, and then I'm going to go with the more and 1.5 field goals for the Cowboys kicker. But again, if you want to play on Thursday, if you want to play on Sunday, whatever it is, hell, NBA, college football, this week is a great week to get started with college football on Prize Picks. And if you're interested, go get started. That link, again, is going to be available to you all down in the comments and down in the description of today's show, prizepicks.com/CLNS, and make sure that you use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. Coming in here at number 7 for my top 10 free agents for the Raiders to sign, cornerback Bryce Callahan. Callahan was also mentioned in my Marcus Peters replacement video, and the reason why Callahan makes sense to me for the silver and black as it stands right now, he has that connection with Champ Kelly, so it could be an easy transition for Callahan, for Kelly to be able to bring him in because he played from the Bears from 2015 to 2018. He also has some AFC West experience playing for the Broncos and Chargers from 2019 to 2022. He is 31 years old. He has started in 56 games. On top of that, though, I'm curious to see what the Raiders do with their cornerback room. Like if you decide to kick Nate Hobbs out to the outside, right, to play corner, or there was some speculation this offseason and even a little bit during practice that Hobbs played a little safety, played a little corner, did like this hybrid role in a Patrick Graham system. I believe Hobbs is the best in the slot, and I think a lot of y'all agree with that statement. But let's just say, hypothetically speaking, they want to kick Nate Hobbs out to the outside corner. They put Tyler Hall, who I think might deserve to be a starter right now for this team, in at slot. You have Amik Robertson as your other corner, and you need some extra depth there to put in the nickel if you're going to use Nate Hobbs. That's where Bryce Callahan can come in here. 47 tackles, 3 interceptions, 6 pass breakups last season. He's not a big guy. But you know what? I think what Amik said after that Chiefs game was something. This team has a lot of heart. They want guys that play with a chip on their shoulder, and Callahan has done that his entire career. Coming in here at number 6, and I know some of you are going to be like, man, that's pretty low. It's Shaq Leonard. And the reason why Shaq Leonard is so low on my top 10 free agents to sign list is because I don't think he's going to sign with the Raiders, so I didn't want to put him too high. He had a visit with the Dallas Cowboys on November 28th. He left that visit. All signs indicate that it went really, really well. And now he's going to be visiting with the Philadelphia Eagles. I want to say that report said potentially on Wednesday, which will be November 29th for those of you watching this live. The Raiders, though, according to multiple reports, are not interested in adding another linebacker. They like the room that they have right now in Robert Spillane, Luke Masterson. To me, their concentration is going to go a little bit of a different route, and I don't believe it's going to be with Shaq Leonard. Now, the next name coming up here is not a name that's a free agent, but it is a name that I would sign if I was the Raiders, and it's Deron Harmon, who is currently on the Cleveland Browns practice squad. So Harmon is not in my top 10 free agents list because, well, he's not a free agent, but he is a player that I would want the Raiders to pick up the phone, give Cleveland Browns a call, and say, hey, I'm taking him off your practice squad. We're putting him on our active 53-man roster because last season with the Raiders and Patrick Graham's system, Harmon was one of the best players that we had on defense, and I think that he led the team in snaps. It was either him or Max Crosby led this team in snaps. He could help out this defense. Let's go to number 5 here on my top 10 free agents to sign. I'm going to go Akiem Hicks, and he's got connections with Champ Kelly as well, being a former Chicago Bear. And when you have connections at this late in the season, I do think that it can go a pretty long way. Even though he is almost 34 years old, he would help out the Raiders on their defensive line, especially in the defensive interior. According to PFF, his grades last season, 61.9 overall grade, a 65.7 run defense grade, and a 58.6 pass rush grade. What I'm looking for at a defensive tackle, as it stands right now, the way that this Raiders team is built, I want guys that can stop the run. That's where the Raiders need a lot of help. Malcolm Koonce has really elevated this game, getting after the quarterback. Max Crosby is Max Crosby. Yeah, Tyree Wilson needs to get his shit together a little bit, but the defensive tackle room can improve. It's as simple as that. Let's go to number 4 here on the list. It's Carlos Dunlap at edge. And the Raiders, to me, need to add an edge rusher in order to take a little bit of pressure off of Max Crosby. And some of you are like, well, what do you mean, Mitch? If you haven't already seen the video of Max Crosby's knee, it's wicked. And, you know, I'm not saying that Crosby's injured. If Crosby's doubtful when he plays, he's just a tough mother effer. But to me, I don't want to put Crosby in a difficult situation. And even if that means taking Max off the field for 5-10 snaps extra a game, I'm okay with it if it means that he's going to be healthy, because Crosby's going to have to get knee surgery in the offseason, or he's going to need something to clean it up, because where his knee is at right now, Crosby said it himself, he's going to need a cleanup. Carlos Dunlap has had at least 4 sacks every season of his 14-year career, and I do think that he could be a good mentor to Tyree Wilson. The Raiders brought in Tyree Wilson, number 7 overall in the NFL draft. They were hoping that Chandler Jones was going to be a good mentor. Here's the thing. Chandler Jones ain't going to be a good mentor to anybody right now. So if you could bring in Dunlap, a player who's long, lanky, athletic, like Tyree Wilson, and then that's Carlos Dunlap's job. Carlos Dunlap's job is to help Max Crosby stay healthy for the entirety of the rest of the season, to make sure that Crosby doesn't have to overexert himself for the remainder of the year. I know that might be tough to tell him, but his other job is be a good player coach to Tyree Wilson, because whatever we're doing right now with Wilson, it's not really working. And I've been very patient with Tyree, but sooner or later, you got to start showing up, man. Here are some more people that I got to give a shout out to. Obviously, got a lot of real ones that always tune into the Raiders Report. Shout out to Rebel, shout out to Jack, shout out to Tanner Edge watching this live. But I also see a lot of people always down in the comments, like Jose, D Smooth, Darlene White, Presidential Rolly. I salute all of y'all. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to watch the show. If you want to be a real one, all you got to do is subscribe. Throw a few comments in there. Make sure you like the video. Believe it or not, I can see all that stuff. Let's go to number 3 here. It's another edge rusher, and it's Melvin Ingram. And the responsibility that I'm going to put on the shoulders of Melvin Ingram is very similar to the responsibility that I would put on Carlos Dunlap. I want him to take some pressure off of Max Crosby. The Raiders were relying on Chandler Jones to be an extra edge rusher. And for the Raiders that now have, one less player in the secondary, and Marcus Peters, if it was me, I'm bringing more pressure. And one of the ways to bring more pressure is to go out and add a veteran defensive end. He had 6 sacks last season. He has played on both the Chargers, on the Chiefs. He has played with the Miami Dolphins. He has played in multiple regimes that could be a stand-up outside linebacker. And just like I want Dunlap to be a mentor to Tyree Wilson, I want Melvin Ingram to help out Malcolm Koonce take that even extra step, because Koonce has been a hell of a player. He has shown you that he can be a reliable option, and he's going to be a reliable option next year. But I do think when you have players like a Dunlap that can help out Tyree Wilson, a Melvin Ingram that can help out Malcolm Koonce, at this point in the season, what do you have to lose? Go ahead, do it. You also play the Chargers and the Chiefs 2 out of your final 5 games. Let's go to number 2 here on my list. It's going to be Casey Hayward at corner. And if you're looking to add a player that you could potentially add as a starter as an outside corner, I do think Hayward is an interesting guy to keep in mind. I will admit, when I watch him play, he is only a zone corner. And the reason why Hayward had success back in 2021 was because of Gus Bradley, because of the defense that they ran, and they ran a lot of soft zone. That's where Casey Hayward is at his best. But when you watch Marcus Peters, Peters wasn't trying to tackle. I think Hayward might be a better coverage corner than what Peters was currently. And yes, he has been on and off some rosters. He's undersized. He's the best free agent corner available in my personal opinion. So if you need to be able to add somebody that you have had as a Raider since 2021, yeah, you didn't play with Patrick Graham, but somebody that you can bring in, have another good, reliable veteran that's a proven leader on this team before, I personally think that he's a name to keep in mind. But coming in here at number 1, defensive tackle Matt I don't know if that's right. Ioannidis? That ain't right. Number 1 at defensive tackle. Yeah, I don't think that's it. We can never pronounce his name right. As soon as I hear it, Ioannidis, that's it. Yep, Matt Ioannidis. I always need somebody to say it first. But he, to me, is the number 1 defensive tackle on the free agent market. And if you've watched this show nearly enough, you probably knew the route that I was going to go here. He started 13 games last season for Carolina. He's a good defensive tackle, the top one on the market. He's a good leader on and off the field. According to PFF, a 66.4 overall grade, 63.5 run defense grade, a 69.1 pass rush grade. I want the Raiders to build their defense continually. Yes, I understand that the offense has been the problem this season, but to me, you're not going to fix the offensive line. They're going to keep Colt Miller. They're going to keep Dylan Parham. They're going to keep Andre James. It's going to be Greg Van Roten. Right tackle's the one spot, but to me, there wasn't a right tackle good enough in order to make this list. That's my personal opinion. So then you got wide receiver. We're good there. Tight end, you're good there. Quarterback, they're not going to make an adjustment to. So I looked at the defense. Where can I improve on defense? To me, Matt, I already forget it. Ioannidis is probably the best option there. So here's your opportunity to be the GM, okay? If the Raiders could sign 1 free agent, you have 2 open roster spots. $9 million. I see down in the chat, Jack says Greedy Williams. Greedy Williams probably would have been like number 13 or 14 on my list here. He was in my Marcus Peters replacement video. But give me a name that if you could sign 1 free agent, who should it be? Because as far as I'm concerned, Antonio Pierce and Champ Kelly, they have to, and I mean this, they have to go out and add some talent this offseason. So let's go through these names here one more time. Really quick recap here of the top 10 free agents. The top 10 free agents that the Raiders should sign during the bye week. Coming in here at number 10, it's Ndamukong Suh. Number 9, P.J. Williams. Number 8, Logan Ryan. At 7, it's Bryce Callahan. 6, Shaq Leonard, though I think he's going to end up signing with the Cowboys or the Eagles. Rolling in here at number 5, it's Akiem Hicks. At number 4, Carlos Dunlap. Number 3, Melvin Ingram. 2, Casey Hayward. And at number 1, Matt Ioannidis, formerly of the Carolina Panthers and Washington Commanders. Bottom line, Raiders need to do something during the bye. They got to get ready for Week 14 against the Minnesota Vikings. And if they have any shot of making the playoffs, you got to win 4 out of your next 5 games. It's not going to be easy, but if you want Antonio Pierce and Champ Kelly to keep their jobs, they got to be able to show some improvement. If you just want to tuck your tail between your legs, I'm sorry, you're at the wrong show. Because here on the Raiders Report, Commitment to Excellence 365.